video is inspired by an article I read by this author. I think he's Chinese-American, called Michael Bagley, right? So the title is called Age of American Unilateralism, How a Rogue Superpower Will Remake the Global Order. So this was posted on the 16th of April 2025. However, he has been promoting this view, what we are seeing in the US as happening now, since 2020, maybe even before, right? He predicted that basically America, the number one superpower, will decide to do things by itself, and you will not do things with a multilateral approach, meaning, get everyone together and, talk about it and, reach consensus and then go ahead. America is going to do things however they want to do it. Too busy to find stock ideas? Check out Fiverr Pro to shortcut your research time and effort by 90%. 10% off link in the comments and description.
Yep. So here are the 20 points that I think is quite interesting for you guys to know more about America and also the future. So number one, he mentioned about rogue superpower path. So since the Cold War, the US was expected to either lead or the world or retreat. So just now MJ mentioned about unilateralism and also multilateralism. You can see the differences between the advantages and disadvantages.
Yeah, so some context. So for those of you who do not spend a bit of time understanding American history, is that they are an oscillation, right? They start off very isolationist, then they become globalist, meaning they get involved in world issues, and then they'll swing back, and they always swing in somewhere in this spectrum, right? It's not unlike, say, like Malaysia. Like we always have to be involved in the world.
Yep.
Right? We always have to have a global outlook. In the case of China, since the Chinese Communist Party took over, they also need to have a more global outlook. And they always have to get involved because, for example, there are a lot of not so friendly people around China, right? So they always have to get involved in global affairs. Whereas in the US, it's very different, right? They have no mortal enemies, or they got no difficult neighbors. Mexico is the closest, but even then, every Mexican wants to go into, or many Mexicans wants to go into the US and become US citizens. And then, the North is, as I like to say, is maple syrup, right? Nothing's going to happen. Sorry, Canadians. So then on the East and the West, you have the you have the Pacific and the Atlantic Ocean, respectively. So there's, it's like a moat, right? Like it's an actual moat. So because of this geographical makeup, and because of them being so much more powerful than all their neighbors combined, right? They have an option to get involved or don't get involved. So to them is that's why if you look at America today, which is very hot and cold. Right? And historically, they've always, I would say by nature, they are isolationists, but they have to get involved because, for example, in World War I, they did not want to get involved at all, but then they got this thing called the Zimmermann Telegraph, which is that Germany told Mexico that, hey, can you basically mess with the US? So because of that, they're like, no, this cannot happen. So they got involved in World War I. So you would think that when they got involved in World War I, which was Europe's mess actually, then they created the League of Nations. It was the precursor to United Nations, right? So they created the League of Nations, and then they say, okay, you know what? We're gonna manage and we're gonna make sure that we can uphold this system, so there's no more other wars. And then the US pulled out. So they came up with the idea of Woodrow Wilson, the president. Then suddenly they pulled out. Then straight away, 15 over years later or more, World War II happened.
Yeah. The World War II is the Soviet Union, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so World War II was Nazi Germany, right? So then America had to get involved again.
Yeah.
Because if they actually maintain the League of Nations, they would ensure that, the world. So it's very funny, right? So like, the reason why World War II happened in part was because the other European countries, especially Western Europe, imposed a lot of financial what's it called, like paybacks, right? They wanted reparations for World War I. So because of that, and especially after you're war torn, imagine you're war torn and now you have to pay reparations, right? That creates its own monsters.
Yeah.
So but that wouldn't have been what the US would probably do. What the US would have done, which is what they actually did in World War II, is that when Germany and Japan fell,
they assisted,
they actually gave money to these people. And not just that, but also lower all trade barriers and allow these companies to manufacture to the US to generate a trade surplus, which is money flowing into the economy, and then, you know, improving the standards of living of the people inside. So since 1945, they've always been more globalist, right? They even allow China to enter, even though it was a communist country, you know, things like that. So they allow them to enter, but then now, of course, things are not so good. So they have decided to not swing all the way to isolationist because they created so much goodwill and assets around the world, right? So now they're swinging more towards the middle. And of course, what would that middle be? This is what that article is trying to explore.
Yep. So that's the first one. The second one is obviously Trump is the
Yes, this is very true. Yeah, people think Trump started the trade war, Trump started decoupling. This is not true. If you read, you know, even in the 2000s, a lot of both Democrats and Republicans, even Obama was saying that, hey, we need to put in tariffs. You know, China is cheating on trade, things like that. So it was already happening, and I would say that Trump is not just an accelerant, he's also a good scapegoat, because I think every US president knows that they have to do this. Yeah. But they know if they do it, it's a risk.
It's unpopular for their future election.
It's a political risk, right? And they do, and even if they are not going to be elected, they also don't want to be the one who really cause so much disruption. So Trump is like, you know what? Let's just do it.
Yeah. So basically, he just whatever he did right now, the tariff and everything, cutting of the foreign aid. So he is basically the accelerant of this unilateralism. Okay, the third one, which is U.S. global power, is still intact. Because I mean, you can see that some of the data that shows that they are facing some sort of decline. But you need to know that America is still like in the dominant for global finance, military, tech, food, and also energy production. So that's why they can.
Some tech, I think China is leading in. I think so. Recently, they're leading in nuclear reactors. They have this thorium reactor. Then they're also leading maybe in drone, and electric vehicles. Probably. I would say there's neck with Tesla, you know, but
so but nevertheless, that's why they can actually kind of go rogue if they choose to.
Basically. And just to give people a sense, right? Only 11% of America's economies are exports of which 1/3 to 40% are Mexico, Canada. So in effect,
they don't really export much,
outside of the Americas. You're looking at 7% maybe.
Hey, just now you mentioned the only 11% of their GDP is from export, and then they are very far less dependent on trade compared to other nations. So you can see that over here they have a very huge household consumption per GDP. So you can see that they are close to like 70%, whereas like the second powerhouse, which is China, they are still very small. Here they say it's like 50%, but actually it's more towards like 40% to 30% ish. But so that's why it's giving them the power to break rules without limited blowback. So the next one is the global dependence on the US. So 70 countries, this I do know, that rely on US military protection. And then
and the three big ones are Germany, Japan, Korea, South Korea.
And then they basically gives Washington power to rewrite or ignore the global norms. This one is just an interesting fact for you to know. Then there's a liberal order that outlived its use, because you need to know that post-World War II, after they are trying to like stop communism, because there was a time where communism is like trying to like spread over everywhere, and then the US, they are more towards like democratic, they want like capitalism. So that's why they were trying to their best to actually kind of like stop it from spreading. And then with that threat is gone, then it become like a bloated, misused, and outdated liberal order.
There's no common focus.
Yes, correct. Because like once everybody is becoming more powerful or same power
and
as
richer,
you, and richer, then they also want to have their own say as compared to like following the US. So now allies are becoming more dependent. You can see that Japan and EU, they actually don't really spend a lot in their military after post-World War, right? Because they are busy building their own manufacturing powerhouse. They are trying to like improve their the citizens' household income per capita and whatnot. And they neglected their own defenses because they are so used to having US to protect them. So you can see that this is actually who is the biggest spender in military from the latest data. So you can see that US is the largest. And then the second one is actually China.
Yeah. Although some people argue it should be a bit higher because they classify it a bit different.
Yeah.
What can be used for military, they classify as civilian.
Correct. So. And then the followed by Russia and also actually North Korea, but we don't have the data over here. But nevertheless, you don't see like Japan, you don't see like Germany. Germany there is, but you don't see like most of the European that is spending military right now. Okay, then the next one is openness became a Trojan horse. So when you actually, last time when they were more open, they gave tag to basically everybody, Russia, China, right? It basically enables rivals to actually, poke the bear. So once they already have all those resources, right? So now they are using like access to hack, bully, and also they are trying to like exploit the Western economy. So right now, China obviously they want to dominate the South China Sea, and also they want Taiwan. Yeah, that is basically their objective right now. Whereas for Russia, it's more towards Ukraine and also Georgia. So you can see that in the past also, there was an attempt where Russia wants to like use energy as a military force to actually like pressure Europe. Basically like they want Europe's support to actually like quote unquote invade Ukraine. But then that didn't work out. And then there's also another one, which is China's hidden subsidy, fuel export onslaught. Because, you can see that China right now, why they are becoming so, growing so fast, right, or rapidly is because they are manufacturing stuff at a very low cost.
Yeah, and a lot of subsidies.
Yeah, it's essentially like hurting most of the domestic countries, those that is manufacturing the same item as them. So,
yeah, I think there's another example of this would be social media, right? So, for example, you get a lot of Chinese propagandists, even ambassadors, newspaper editors who are obviously pro-China. They're able to create X accounts or Twitter accounts, and then go into basically give propaganda and then lecture the US and things like that. But you cannot see the same for, let's say, not just US, but everyone else, opening accounts in, let's say, what do they use? Weibo, right? In China, and then saying what they want to say, because they will be shut down immediately.
Yeah.
So they are, the Chinese cause is using your own system to strangle you. So they're using your openness against you.
And next one is the global institution is in gridlock. So you can see that institutions like UN, WTO are now arenas for anti-America politics rather than instruments for American leadership. You also can see that the reason why is because obviously, number one, the US GDP of the world is actually declining a lot. They are somewhat on paper looks like they are losing strength, but they are still actually doing fine. And then also another stats which is quite interesting is that since 1992, Russia actually has been the frequent user of their veto rights. Veto rights as compared or followed by the US, China, France, and also the UK. Basically, what are your thoughts on this one? UN and WTO?
Yeah, so the UN and WTO and all these international organizations, we like to call them international, but really it's largely American-backed. Right. And like, for example, the World Bank, America are the largest shareholders, right? I think at 17%, something to that effect. And then followed by Japan at 6%, and then China at 5%, something like that. So it's really an American-funded thing. If you look, the UN, WTO, all the, the green stuff, mainly American. So if they want to pull out, means no one is going to pick up the slack, right?
Yep. So yeah, that's the other point. And then the next one is the globalization domestic backlash. You can see that the US, why Trump wants manufacturing back here is because their own middle class is suffering a lot because of globalization. They are losing jobs, factories, and also community stability. You can see that the manufacturing jobs is actually on the decline over here, manufacturing employees as compared to total employees. That's also a given because there's more robots and AI also is like taking place.
So what's actually very funny is that this is a global thing, and even China themselves are facing the same issue.
Yeah, that's why I see also some of the videos where the factory workers are still like people. Like they look very bored lah. They just like sleeping over there, like shifting things. But they need them to actually, because if they don't, right, if they replace it with robots, then these people will be unemployed and then they cannot contribute back to the economy.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So that's actually also another crucial point, is that China, they have to like purposely hire human laborers just for the sake of like giving them some sort of like
it's to maintain employment, because if you don't have, in China, so many people, right? You have tens of millions of people coming out making a noise. So in the case of the US, it's true they are also losing it, but it's mainly due to technology, and I think politicians in the US are taking advantage of this, and then putting the blame on China and things like that. However, and this is why politics and economics is complicated, there's still a value for the US to bring manufacturing back, not because of employment, but because of strategic use. To be able to make your own chips, produce your own rare earth minerals. These are absolutely crucial. But unfortunately, even if you manage to bring back all these industries, those people that lost their jobs are not going to get hired.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, and also another fun fact is that this is the
it's linked,
index.
Right?
It's linked. So you can see that the income inequality index is actually growing a lot. It's the same for the rest of the world as well. Okay, but the advantage for US is that they are the only major powerhouse with a growing working age population. Whereas for Eurasia is actually aging fast, and also there's a weakening future productivity and military strength. So you can see that the difference between the age group over here. So they still have a lot of young adults in the US as compared to like other nations like in China, Europe. China ID, they abolished they only have like one child policy, right? So that is really expected to reduce a lot population. Same for the Europe as well. Same for Japan and elsewhere. So that's why that's also one of the reasons why they can go rogue, or they don't want to rely on other parties, because
they have immigration. That's the another superpower that they have. They bring in the
attract talents,
people, whether even from places like China or all that. That's why now they're having a debate of saying, hey, how much of these people from China should we bring in, because they might be spies and all that. And so that's what the US is dealing with. But just to give you guys some sense of stats, right? So population is one thing, but also working population divided by total population. That is, between US and China, they are quite neck and neck. That means the percentage of people who are working as a percentage whole, whereas places like Japan are a lot lower. But the fertility rate for the United States is closer to 2 than 1. But for China, it's really closer to 1. After COVID, the drop was huge, right? It's close to 1. So if you drag this out, the working age population is going to shrink, and then the old age population is going to grow. Now, how this is going to be a challenge is because even though China has grown a lot in terms of manufacturing, their per capita income is still quite low. Probably about, I think, household income maybe about $13,000 a year versus 80,000 in the US, with an economy that is declining. So when the economy is declining and your per capita income is not that big yet, then you have a lot of old people coming into they can't work as much, right?
Yeah.
So you got to take care of them. And here's the thing, China already has a budget deficit. So we always talk about the US having a budget deficit, which is at about 6%. China, the reporter, is about 4%. However, if you adjust for certain things that they do not include, it's closer to 7 to 8%. It's actually higher than the US. So this means that China has to increase taxes to be able to pay for all this. So, but what happens when you increase taxes on people who need to pay for their own parents, and the economy is slowing? And there's the risk of AI and robotics replacing a lot of jobs.
Yeah, and they cannot really continuously penalizing the top 20% in China, because they are the one that is contributing tax. Whereas I think
they will have to tax the main population.
Yeah.
But the main population, I think, only half earns more than 50,000 yuan a year.
Yeah, it's basically like it's like the 80-20 rule. 80% of them are not paying tax. So they have to rely on the rich one. And the rich right now, most of them are kind of like migrating out.
Yes, and then also recently China, I think one of their internal memos got leaked, and then they said that if you do not come back to China, or if you invest, or you take money out, that is amounting to treason or something like that. So when you have a rule like that, what does it mean? It means that the deep insecurity is that these rich people want to get out.
Yep.
Yeah, and also we know this is the case because gold price has went up a lot, and the main cause of that are actually Chinese citizens, not the government. People think it's the government, but it's actually the citizen. So you triangulate all this data, and then you're like, yeah, this is what's happening.
Okay, the other one is autocracies are militarizing. So you can see that China, Russia, and North Korea at the moment they are pouring more money into defenses because obviously there's like trade wars and everything. Even this is even with shrinking populations. So whether this is a good move or bad move or what, that one I will leave it to your own interpretation. Okay, next one will be technological shift will be towards self-sufficiency. So yeah, we already know automation AI is already reshoring, reduce for the US needs for foreign labor and supply chains, and it kind of like make the economic disengagement easier. This is basically the robots from Amazon. Yeah, basically everything is going towards more AI. And next one will be the rise for Fortress America. So military strategy will be shifting from global presence to strike from a distance capabilities. Right now, I mean, we're talking about cyber hack and everything, right? And also drones fight. So they don't really need to go to the enemy's country to invade. They can just like sit at home, control their drones, control where's the robot, and fight. So yeah, that is one of the way for America's defenses. Okay, so the fork in road. The US can either become a reckless rogue or a strategic leader with a tighter and more focused alliances of capable partners. So I think this one is going to be more towards the, is it NAFTA? The America, Canada, and also Mexico.
Yeah, the North American Free Trade Agreement.
Yeah. Correct. So
USMCA, that's the other one.
Yeah, that will be the more ideal instead of just like going like solo. Yeah, if they are going solo, then I think the whole world is going to be like in chaos already. Okay, next one also he did mention is that trade war is very dangerous because it increase the risk of more price hike, and then also it risks the collapsing of alliances and also might invite military conflict, as seen in World War II. You can see 1930 after they do like a tariff act, then there's a Great Depression. So hopefully, and right now actually Trump is like chilling already with the tariffs. So hopefully we won't go to that state. Okay, next one is the myths or sphere of influence. So if we cannot also give China and Russia territorial leeway, because if we give them what they want, then they won't stop their ambition. Like
that's what he thinks.
Yeah, correct. And also, because you need to know that initially, I think Hong Kong was given some sort of like freedom. There was a point of time, and then but China came in and imposed, like say you cannot.
I mean, some people are calling it the world's longest protest because technically honkies are still protesting.
Yeah, so we already know that China, in a way, they don't really like
I mean, they do not like different opinions.
Yes, correct.
If you go against them,
they are communist
in that sense,
country,
politically,
So yeah, this is what Hong Kong don't like. Then Russia, you also, I mean, what if Russia like get Ukraine, right? Maybe they want more instead of just like Ukraine. So you don't want that to lead.
Of course, I think Ukraine is a bit different because I mean, the Russian side will say is the opposite. If Ukraine join NATO, then you will
then it will be a threat to them.
So I think Russian one is a bit more complicated, but then with the Hong Kong one, that one is very clear cut, right? The Hong Kong used to be much freer, but now you can't say what you need to say.
Yeah. Okay, and this also show that great powers never stop on their own. So you can see that this is actually a very bold statement. History shows aggressive powers like Nazi Germany or the Soviet Union had to be stopped. So that's why they put like nuclear bomb to stop them. And then he also did mention Putin and Xi Jinping are no different because when you give them like what they want more. So you can see this is basically one of the Google. If you actually just like see when the Germany and Japan conceded or defeated, right, is when actually the US come and step in and then throw some atomic bombs, and then that's where they surrender.
Naturally, autocracies, because their powers are unchecked. So when they start a war, right, usually it's, hey, let's go all the way. Because even if they realize it's wrong already, and
they cannot stop it.
Yeah, because they're going to say, you know what, guys, let's pull back.
Yeah.
But then they're going to be embarrassed, and people are going to doubt their leadership. Whereas for democracies, because the people have a big say, which is also a weakness also, because people have a big say, when the minute they see that the war their sons and daughters, a lot of them are dying. And they realize, actually, why are they? They're constantly questioning, why are we even in this war? Why are we in? So in America's case, one of the reasons why they didn't succeed in Vietnam was because of this. It wasn't because that the Vietnamese actually outmuscled the US in this case. In fact, the US was already on track to at least secure South Vietnam. But because everybody in America, like, you know what, no more war. So they stopped all the funding, and then straight away everything collapsed overnight. And then there are a lot of refugees from Vietnam. So, but the good part is that if America goes, like if the leaders want to keep going, the democracies are able to put a stop to that. In the case of, I can't say much about Soviet Union or Russia, but in the case of China, they can be stopped, but not through a democratic means where they're gonna force them, through law to step down as a president or whatever. But China's will be a rebellion. So when they see you're involved in a war, there'll be people, maybe a provincial leader, or provincial leader who will try and step in and say, you know what, this is my chance to be the new emperor. So I'm gonna break off and start a war inside. That's when China can pull back.
Okay, next one will be the economic case for alliance. So wealth comes from open trade. Obviously, he's trying to say that, we shouldn't be spending too much on military and build a fortress economy, because a divided world would weaken the global.
So this is one area that I softly disagree with him. I mean, if I was in America's position, I would continue trade. And in fact, this is increasingly becoming the Trump team's position. They have actually softened on their a bit. They're basically saying, let's be selective on the trade, rather than a blanket.
Blanket tariff.
So I disagree when people say wealth comes from open trade. I do believe trade by and large generates wealth. However, in some area, that is only assuming if both sides are interested purely in making money or just improving the lives of their people. But in some cases, where, like, for example, China, where they see you as almost like an adversary, they might want to either steal your technologies or undercut some of your advantages, and they are looking to, take advantage, right? They own like farmland near military bases and things like that. You cannot have trade that is that open. So you have to be very selective on what you want to trade. So this is the only one that I have a soft disagreement. I mean, Malaysia, we also do that, right? We also, because of our own interests, we have certain halal certifications. So therefore, some technical or regulatory barriers need to be higher here, right? So if we understand that, I think America is within its right to be able to do this. So I do not agree that free and open trade is good all the time.
Okay, the opportunity in crisis. So, obviously, post-war, usually there will be much more bigger and better one. So this is actually a good time for US to actually rebuild their infrastructure, supply chain, tech, and also trust, and also shape a free.
So to give a concrete example, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but this could happen, which is, we know China have halted rare earth minerals to the US, right? So this is a case of, hey, Malaysia has a chance to help the US rebuild the supply chains by being not necessarily the only one, but certainly a partner in rare earth minerals, where we can help extract and, of course, supply these minerals, especially heavy rare earth minerals, to the US.
Okay, so the final one is the world is changing fast. So the US, once the architect of global peace of trade, is at a crossroad. So this one is basically your own thoughts about this. Let us know in the comments. Will they become a rogue empire, or will they lead a new focused alliance of free nations? So yeah, that's about it for today's reaction on this article. So if you want to know, we'll put the link
go
also.
read it,
But it's a paywall, so maybe you can sub and then read it yourself. It's a very good insights on everything, history, and also about the US. So this is the Fire Pro's latest update. We shared also quite a number of stuff that is related to the US and China war, and also we talk about which state in Malaysia has the most resources in terms of rare earth minerals that we can actually supply to the US. And also we did discuss like some of the companies that might benefit from this, assuming it does happen. So if you want to know what are the company names, what our latest discussion is all inside Fire Pro. Okay, so April performance has been pretty much okay at 33.68%. And if you want to know what is Fire Pro about, it is a place where we actually share our write-ups. Basically, it is our own research and analysis on companies that we think it is interesting. And let's say if we are very confident with their prospects, we will initiate in our reference portfolio inside FPM, FPG, and TB. So FPM stands for Malaysia. The FPG is global, and TB is boring portfolio. Boring is more for the dividend lovers. So if you like dividend stocks, you like monthly cash flow, this is a reference portfolio that you can refer to. And also you can see that our dividend yield for our boring portfolio is 6.76%, which is higher than EPF's 6.3% dividend rate. So if you are curious on what are the names behind this, check out Fire Pro. And you also can read out some of our samples that we have, whether is it our write-ups, whether is it our SIB videos or modes, and also our management notes. So we didn't stress this just now, but then we do share some of the exclusive notes, meeting notes that we have with CEOs or even like basically internal teams, and we share it to our members. So if you want to know how we do those notes, you can check it out inside this free sample. The link will be in the description and comments. So it's a long video, guys, so hope you guys enjoy it. If you like it, make sure to smash the like and also hit subscribe for more, and see you guys next week.